I think sometimes people may really get caught up in the winning, yeah, and neglect the needs of athletes. And I think you could still win by still caring for these athletes.
How many lady coaches do you interact with?
Years past, there weren't many, but right now I think we're making strides in the right direction with some really young, great upcoming female coaches. Women can do just as well as men can in the field. So the opportunities need to be extended to them.
What is a coach's role?
Having coaches, one is more of the competence part because they have a certain knowledge that you do not have to begin with. And how they see things and how they're able to relay and teach it to you may well make a difference to your progress.
What's the importance of coaches studying film?
There's so much to be gained from film study because one, when you're doing film study just for your team, it helps highlight moments, teachable moments that you can share with your players.
Indeed, viewers, what a great day to be alive. That's one thing that sometimes we get to forget. And it's a huge blessing to be alive. And today we are starting a segment and we are having a great conversation with none other than Coach Mshilla Rose. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
What would you like people to learn from this interview?
I'd like people maybe to learn more about who I am and what my drive as a coach actually is, like what my story really is, yeah.
Yeah, and now that you've let us know that you're a coach, maybe you can tell us more about you and where you coach and some of the things that you're working on.
Right, so I'm an assistant coach in Nairobi City Thunder, and I also work with them in the skills development capacity as a trainer. I'm also a programs coordinator with Clique Mambas. They also have a basketball team, but at the Division 1 level. So Nairobi City Thunder is at the Premier League level, Clique Mambas at the Division 1 level. And I'm also associated with various programs in schools. I do some in-school training sessions with Roslyn Academy. And with regards to the community part of it, I'm associated with Soweto Sports Initiative, that's in Kayole as well. And I've also volunteered with Far East Basketball Association as well. Those areas have been a huge part of my coaching journey. Yeah.
You see, that's a busy schedule you have, I can imagine, each and every day.
Yeah, it is. But we make it work.
You make it work.
Yeah, we make it work.
And, basketball is a transformative tool. And being a transformative tool within all those spaces that you operate in, how many lady coaches do you interact with?
So one thing that I'd want first to really agree with is that basketball has a transformative nature, like the sport itself, the power that it holds. And I have seen it transform multiple lives, particularly the athletes. With regards to the coaches that I've been able to encounter in the spaces, years past, there weren't many, but right now I think we're making strides in the right direction with some really young, great upcoming female coaches. Some courtesy of the Junior NBA that has been running some initiatives within the community. So shout out to Coach Joanne Njoki, who's under the Far East Basketball Association, Coach Diana Wafula under Active Nation Sports as well, and Yvonne Pendo. She's been working with Next Gen. She's worked with the kids at a younger level. So those are some of the young upcoming coaches that I've been able to encounter. And it's a unique experience because, like I said, before that wasn't the case. Like you wouldn't find ladies taking up these spaces as we are now, yeah.
And in the Premier League, how many lady coaches?
Premier League, so under the women's Premier League, definitely quite some, a number of names, like Coach Evelyn Kedogo. She'd worked with Eagle Wings in the past. She's one of the coaches that I actually have seen and worked with. And in the KPA technical bench, I'm aware of also Brenda Angeshi, Ulinzi, as well. Ulinzi Warriors have an assistant coach in Esther Butali, who's also a very great coach. So those are but a few. And of course, at Division 1 level, where I've also interacted with some of the teams, I think there's only 2 female head coaches there. That would be myself and Penny Nantenya. She's the coach with Moisture's basketball. Yeah.
And there is all these conversations that are coming even to the level of, BAL, Basketball Africa League, and BAL for her.
Yeah.
Have you had a chance to be part of any or something that, why are we pushing for lady coaches as well to fill these spaces?
I think one is just a question of building capacity. Having female coaches in those spaces helps redefine the status quo, not just for ourselves, but also for just generations that are upcoming. Women can do just as well as men can in the field. So the opportunities need to be extended to them. Through the exposure, we're able not only to build capacity, but it also creates opportunity for building competence. So a lot of training goes about such spaces, even just for the BAL for her. You're able to interact, or rather from what I've been able to see is how they're able to bring together this group of women who are doing amazingly in different sports categories and different sports fields as well, whether it's psychology, whether it's business, and it helps provide that angle that is required of sports being as dynamic as it can be, like beyond just the on-court focus. But for sure, more coaches can and should definitely, more female coaches should be able to access those spaces. And of course, one of the trailblazers and inspiration that I've always looked to is Coach Liz Mills, who's had the experience and has been able to work and deliver at that level. Yeah.
What inspired you into your coaching journey, and how do you use basketball to transform your athletes beyond the court?
So that's usually an interesting question because most people think my plan was always to be a coach. Like this was something that I'd given much thought to, which isn't really the case. As my profession, or rather what I went to school for, is I have a bachelor's degree in sports, in environmental sciences. That's what I pursued. And I did postgraduate in project management. So how I got into coaching was more of just loving the sport, like enjoying it. I was an athlete. I managed to play the sport at the secondary school level, though our school at the time didn't have much of a sports focus. It was more educational. That was Kenya High School. And through university as well, and Kenyatta University, that was KU 18 I also got an experience to play at that level with some elite players right now, like Betty Kanano at the time, who was my schoolmate. So I just enjoyed the sport. I loved the challenges it presented. I loved the opportunities it gave. I loved how fun and the sense of belonging that it would build for us. So how I found myself in this space was just volunteering through the different community programs. As I'd mentioned, I am affiliated with Soweto Sports Initiative and Far East Basketball Association. So through Far East is where I really took up that coaching mantle, where they gave me an opportunity to work with some of their kids when I was benchmarking there on behalf of Soweto, just to try and understand at the time how, or rather why, the program had been more successful than our own, yet we were within the same operational environment. So that was one of the things that I did, and it helped provide so much insight. And at the time, I was privileged to be able to undergo a coaching clinic, you would say, or a training course. That's deep coaching that was being hosted at Far East Basketball at the time. I was able to work with several athletes at the time, also as a part of the work component of the course. And in the process is where I now got into coaching. Yeah. So I met Clique Mambas then, who were also a U23 program under Far East Basketball before now advancing. Like the guys were transitioning into being adults. So Far East would mainly have a focus on the kids. So these other guys, like getting into their 20s, they wanted to do something for themselves. So that's how I ended up volunteering, working with them as a coach at the time. They were participating in the Street Inside Exposure League, which has also been a huge tool in terms of empowering players within that community. And yeah, through that experience, having won the Street League championship at the time in 2021, I found myself accessing different spaces in school through the in-school programs at Roslyn, and it kept building up until where I am now. That is with Nairobi City Thunder. Yeah. So Clique was definitely my start, and I'm always grateful to those young men for having given me the opportunity, or rather for trusting me to lead them or to guide them at the time, and for the successive victories that we've shared together, and even just some of the losses we've even shared to get to the point that we are, because after the Street League, we worked our way to the NBA, got to the finals, got the promotion to Division 2 under the KNBL, Kenyan National Basketball League. And here we are now this year in Division 1.
Division 1.
Yes.
And you've been able to journey with these young men, you know, from teenagehood, now they're growing up to be big men. What's one thing that makes your heart melt when you see them?
It's the growth, like their holistic development as young men, yeah, and that's beyond the sport. Some have grown to become entrepreneurs. Some are in schools, that is in universities, pursuing their degrees or diplomas. Some are running various initiatives. One like Brian, that is Brian Wabwire, he started his own academy, which is a beauty to see, Active Nation Sports Academy. Guys like Manucho Sportswear, right now being an entrepreneur that he is. Guys like Marol, who've gotten to experience what it is to be a pro athlete under some of the local clubs here with Umoja. Guys like Mareba in school. Yeah, Williams, who managed to get their diplomas just recently. So it's the beauty of it, just seeing these guys make strides in life and just becoming reliable and responsible people in their communities. Like their families can look up to them, their families can rely on them. Yeah, and those are just but the few success stories that we have had in-house. So the sport itself is in itself a really huge transformative tool. And even just to witness how they have managed to stay together and to support each other despite guys going in different spaces is usually the best part of it. Like that sense of belonging, that sense of brotherhood is always there for them. They're happy for each other. I think it also comes with the name. They're called Clique. Clique in itself is like a group of friends, very close-knit. So yeah, because Alex was also at NBK, Alex Suzuki, and now he's playing for Equity Bank. So those kind of strides and just seeing them grow into being the people that they are, great inspiration.
If there's one coaching philosophy that you'd like to change or you'd desire to be viewed differently, what is it?
I think sometimes people may really get caught up in the winning, yeah, and neglect the needs of athletes. And I think you could still win by still caring for these athletes. So that's one thing I'd love to always remain consistent, that athletes remain the priority in our journeys as coaches, in how we approach the game as coaches. So once you are able to understand your athletes, you're able to connect with them, you're able to build character in them, then you can easily influence and you can easily guide and together get to the point that you want to get as a team.
Some of your experiences has also been within the national team, U18, U16. How was your approach developing these players for the national level?
So the national team assignments have always, or rather are, a very huge achievement in my experience. Just having to be at that level as a representation of my nation and having to guide these talented young athletes who also have dreams of being those senior players in years to come. Like, they have their sporting pathways already envisioned. These young kids, you may easily dismiss them, but most of them have dreams, yeah? And I think the biggest inspiration at the time when working with them was that I wanted to see them experience that. By that I mean at the youth level we hadn't had many assignments, yeah. So that was also like a huge stride. Credit to the federation for having made that happen for these young kids, for this generation, and it helps set precedents to what can become of the basketball within our nation. With regards to working with them, it was a pleasure because I have coached some of these kids from a very young level. I had interacted with them years past when I was volunteering then as a young coach within the different communities. So having seen them grow and be the people that they are, the competitors, and just how they love and committed to the game, I think that was the best part. And even just following up on their progress as they are in their different school programs, whether the sporting or the educational part. I think that was the interesting part about this national team experience for me.
Awesome. There's this thought of some athletes, why do I need a coach? What do I need a coach for? I can coach myself, or I can go to YouTube and do something. What is a coach's role in championing sports development?
I think coaches play a very critical role because our role is multifaceted. Like, there's so much that goes into coaching. Just beyond the technical skill that you're trying to learn is more the insight, right? And with people being different kind of learners, there's guys who can learn visually through audio by just seeing or even just drawing it down. It helps to have a person who has this great knowledge in the sport because they're able to give you different angles or perspectives, which you can work with. Now you can make your own, like through your own journey, yeah? So having coaches, one, is more of the competence part because they have a certain knowledge that you do not have to begin with, and how they see things and how they're able to relay and teach it to you may well make a difference to your progress. You could still learn it on your own, but you may take longer than you would having a person there who would mentor you and guide you and be able to create this pathway for you, because coaches also have that responsibility of getting you from one level to the next, yeah? So based on what your vision is, could be maybe getting to that starting point guard position, just basically that within your team where you are. And a coach can be able to offer that based on their general experience of the game, having seen what is required of a starting point guard within other spaces that they have been to.
Yeah. And indeed, to be a successful coach, you have to have a support system. And there's usually, just recently, Team Kenya just did, and NOC just did a workshop on women in sports. What are some of these challenges, women face in sports? And what are some of the hurdles you go through as a female coach? And what are some of the challenges you've experienced as playing as a female athlete? And what needs to be done, to bring more true inclusivity within the game of basketball?
I think one to start is basketball itself is a male-dominated sport. So one of the challenge would definitely be there isn't as much opportunity as there should be with regards to inclusivity, as you said, for women within the space. So right now, one thing I'd say is there are strides being made in the right direction to get us to that point. But of course, since there aren't so many females within that space, a challenge would be, I personally don't have so many female figures or coaches who have been in my position as an assistant coach for like a men's team to be able to relate experiences with, or rather exchange experiences with, which I think is something that's really important. Having people who you can have a relatable experience. Yeah. So that's definitely one of the challenge. And then, like I said, the opportunity part in terms of the exposure or even just inclusivity at these leadership positions as well is also something that slowly being worked on. Yeah. But in order for you to have the impact that we want to bring this change, of course, women have to be able to access those leadership positions, because it's there that a lot of policies, right, are developed that can be able to impact the day-to-day operations. Okay. But one thing I'm definitely appreciative of is, organizations like NOC who try to hold these workshops in terms of just offering extra training to allow persons like myself to explore and just access such opportunities. And on a personal level, I'd say for me was the people I surrounded myself with, like other coaches, male coaches, that is, one being Coach Brad Hibbs, who has been a mentor and is also my boss at Nairobi City Thunder. Having coaches like Sadat Gaya, Coach T9, Ronnie Owino, who willingly share what it is that they have and push you, like within that space, to just, be yourself and explore what it is to be a coach and build your own identity. Yeah. So I think that's also important. When you have a support system, can ideally be systematic, or it can just start with the people around you. And also on a personal level would be Clique, who embraced me as a female coach and having allowed me to just work with them and walk with them on this journey to the point that we have.
There's an important aspect while we're still at that, where, there are roles of a woman in a society that are well known since, time memorial, to date, which you have to juggle with. Now you being a coach to Nairobi City Thunder, there's Clique there's Roslyn that you're working with. How do you get to balance all this? Coaching, your family, or that tight-knit inner circle, juggling mentorship, coaching, societal duties, family duties, and at the point that you're facing burnout, how do you handle it?
One thing for sure is burnout is real. Yeah. If you do not plan or manage your time well to include your own wellness and just self-care, it could be a challenge. And I think I myself have been a victim of that years past, when I started with just wanting to commit to each and every program, or to want to meet each and every need that is presented within the different areas that I was working on at the time. And two things I would highlight to help manage that is having people understand your vision. They might not always understand it entirely, but just giving them a glimpse of what it is that you're trying to achieve. Yeah. So my family, for instance, as my parents, I don't get to see them a lot like throughout the year because of the nature of my schedule. They stay in Mombasa and I stay in Nairobi. But it is in including them in my activities, whether it's online, just letting them know that this is where I am and this is what I'm doing, and filling them in. It helps them get a better understanding of who I am. So at the time when I started, they didn't fully understand it. And of course, it won't always be a smooth sail. But with time, I think people get to see the benefit of the work that you're trying to do. And in them realizing that the work is bigger than myself, it becomes easier for guys to buy in and support you. So credit to my inner circle who have always supported me in different ways. Shout out to Jack Tonagunda, my friend Berin, who's worked with me with Clique, like from the time that we started. And some of the athletes that have always encouraged me to take a break the same way I encourage them to do. So I think those are some of the checks that have to be there, the checks and balances. But for sure, a support system that understands what you're trying to achieve is very important, because then they won't put you in this box whereby there's certain expectations that you need to meet to be the person that you are.
And this comes to the next question, and it's how has your personal person been able to support you through this journey and for you to pursue your dreams? Just by you answering this question will help, I think, give more ladies in sports, in coaches, and give that perspective of the personal person support and some of the things that you can share about that, if you will so.
All right, so on the personal person's part, there isn't a personal person, yeah?
Yes.
So, but one thing that has helped me also is my journey, my personal journey, spiritual journey, as a Christian, that is. So I have this community whereby we fellowship and we're able to hold each other in check and just ensure that even during the hard times, that you have people to still uphold you. So you may not have a personal person, but I think being a part of a community would help big time. Like, get yourself in a community that speaks life into the kind of work that you do, that is willing to be a part of what you're doing, because one person I haven't also mentioned in this is Miss Nelly Odera, who is a TM at Eagle Wings. And she's a really great and inspirational lady, in my opinion. She's been my mentor and my team manager. Like I said, I also played the sport itself. I still do. And in my journey as an athlete, and even just as I transitioned to being a coach, she was huge. And she was one of the people who would consistently ensure she checks up on me to ensure that I don't get to that level of burning out, because at the time I would also balance being an athlete, like a really active athlete, with all these coaching jobs around. Yeah. So it was hard. It was hard. So she's one of the people that also introduced me to the church community that I'm a part of. And having her has been a blessing, to say the least. So you may not have a personal person, I say it again, but being a part of a community, building meaningful relationships, right, with mentors, with friends, it helps make the difference and lighten the load. Yeah.
Definitely. And viewers, you've heard for yourself, there's no personal person. Probably there's an opportunity for you, but if you're ready to support and be part of the journey, for sure. Thank you, Mshilla, man. You're super inspirational, and just keep on doing what you're doing, and we're super proud of you. Viewers, just to let you know that we are at Osoita Lodge, indeed, where guests become family. And there have been great partners and community that, as Coach Mshilla is talking about, that has been able to support Wima Sports through this journey. The past 3 years, basketball growth, I mean, as you've said, we've made strides in many ways in basketball in the country. I look at 3 years ago and see how much, they're just pillars that we've already put up past 3 years. What are some of the areas in which Kenyan basketball has grown, and where do you see it the next maybe 5 years?
One of the most impressive areas of growth has been the grassroots level. Like, there's great coaches out here doing some really good things for the community and for the younger generation. That's for like the junior basketball. I could talk through Slams Dunk. I could talk about Umoja Elite basketball. I could talk about Little Prince in Kibera. I could talk about Far East basketball. I could talk about Urbanville, right there in Kisumu. There's so many junior programs and just what we call the grassroots level. And I think that grassroots level is really important because that's the hub of talent that not only serves this present generation, but can be nurtured and developed to keep sustaining this basketball ecosystem for years to come. So the coaches doing this great work out there, of course, kudos to them. And I think that's an area that a lot of investment in terms of resources can be channeled towards that, because our national teams haven't had that sort of consistent talent infusion, whereby our young players are the ones transitioning into these senior teams. Like, it was like that years past, like before my time, from what I've heard, but it's something that hasn't been sustainably, like for the past, you could say for the past decade or so. Yeah. So I think this grassroots level of development is really important, so that we are able to really get this talent pool that we're able to tap into and keep growing and developing as a nation. Yeah.
And indeed, a lot has also developed around the media as space within the grassroots levels. We've seen different, social media sites coming up, Wima Sports, Whoopi, and all these other guys, K Hoops, these are guys who are actually positioning players, to be scouted by the short clips K Hoops does, by all these other, Foul and One going live, and all these other, these sites doing all this. Important aspect that is also, I've seen come up really, it's documentaries.
Yes.
And Africa Nazarene did their documentary courtesy of Wima Sports. I think Dero did some documentary with his media house or media identity that he did something with. We are building up on sports documentary a lot, and that's one thing that is one of our niche here at Wima Sports. How do you feel about telling untold basketball stories, and why do they matter?
I think it's really important to tell these basketball stories, the untold ones, to be precise, because there's so much to be learned and gained from other people's experiences and other people's stories. Based on how they're told, they could be that element of change or inspiration, that hope to a person who might just be starting their journey or is maybe facing a certain challenge in it. When stories are told, they're able to spark our imagination. They're able to inspire our perspectives, and even just they're able to guide us in our experiences based on what can be learned from them. So I think it's really important, and just a way of just making it memorable, because sometimes like really great stories exist, but they haven't been put out there, right? So I think as a way of collecting memorabilias, I think telling stories is important, because even I myself, if I go back to primary school, those stories that we used to read, storybooks, and even just historical archived newspapers that you can actually find, and you're able to see how far we have come, or how things used to be then and how they are now. I think stories are key to just the general development of people, a culture, and even just generally an environment. Yeah. So I'm all for telling these untold stories for sure. Documentaries are cool.
Yeah, and you've been part of this story of the Nairobi City Thunder. First season in the league, you guys won it undefeated. By God's grace, you got into the road to BAL. Had a chance to qualify at home in your city, Nairobi City. How did you feel in that moment?
Man, Nairobi City Thunder has been a huge blessing in all its entirety, yeah? From just the working environment of it to the amazing athletes that I get to work with every single day. And generally just the visionary leadership that is there, and Colin, Sandra, and Cushion, and Stephen. Like, it's great to see people who are able to look into our Kenyan or African basketball ecosystem and just see so much potential and be willing to invest as they have. It was really great winning the championship to start unbeaten. That in itself sent a certain message to just the existing sports ecosystem as it was, because it wasn't something that had been done, and particularly to do it in just the first season. I think that sent quite the message, yeah. And in itself, Thunder became, in my opinion, the standard. Like, managements would want to mirror that in order to gain that kind of success. And the professionalism that is exhibited there, like every single day, that goes into taking care of the athletes, taking care of the coaches, and getting the right personnel, yeah, working under head coach Brad Dibbs, and our front office that does the most, yeah, in terms of just getting sponsorships in it, and even just building a media brand like we have, because I think that was our first season, and we were able to get like 10K followers, if I'm not wrong, at the time. And I think that is huge. It tells a story of what it means to be in sports business, what it means to actually put in resources, and what it means to build capacity, right? With regards to getting the right personnel, coaches, recruitment, yeah. And of course, a lot of time and effort and commitment went into that to just realize that. And to the icing on the cake was definitely qualifying for BAL, and to do it at home, right? With some of our top Kenyan talent in Tyler Ongwae, in Derek Ogechi, Albert Odero, Ariel Local, right? Fidel Okoth, guys who had definitely wanted to be at that level but hadn't had success. Ken Washira hadn't had success from previous experiences, yeah, to get to that next hurdle. Eugene Adera, I think that was it. Like, these athletes also work so hard, yeah? And having failed a number of times to get to that level, particularly for our local guys like Eugene and Ken under KP at the time, it was a huge boost, yeah, to what it could mean to be a Kenyan professional athlete just within this space. Yeah, yeah, it was huge. They were able to redefine this moment for the whole nation. Yeah, for the fans who showed up big time. Yeah, for all those young athletes that made time to just be a part of that moment. I think that has been the highlight of my time with Thunder to this moment. I'm definitely looking forward to more, of course, with now working towards this next run at the group stages. That is with the BL, the actual BL, yeah. So, yeah, but getting to do that and with the players that we did, I think that was special. Of course, mad respect to Ater Machok, Aruna, who are here with us, Abdullahi, right? UC, Uchenna, like they all played a crucial role into bringing all this together, like for us as a unit. So, yeah, it was dope.
They saw the city and believed in it.
For sure.
And let's say, this is for you, Nairobi.
They bought into what Thunder basketball was all about, and it was an honor. Like our guys and them, it was good how everything came together. I'm grateful for that.
Definitely. We are wishing you all the best as you guys prepare for the next
Thank
stage.
you.
And nothing but support from us, and go ye and conquer.
That's the plan. That's the plan.
Yes, yes. What I like about you guys is, you are able to show the true story of possibilities, and possibilities if things are done the right way, in the best possible way that you can, with the possible least resources that you have, but you do it in the right way, and that has created a whirlwind of manifestation across other teams within the league to step up. And thanks to you guys, you've grown the level of basketball in the nation, and we just like you to keep on keeping on. When we think of personal opinion of best managed teams, in the country, I think of KCB Rugby. I think of Nairobi City Thunder. I think of Cabras. Those are some of the top teams that I've seen managed, really well across all spectrums, from the fan base all the way to the front office. And we wish you guys all the best, and shout out to you guys. Coach Mshilla, you've been able to coach, moving on, 3x3 and 5-on-5. What are some of the key differences in approach, and from your own opinion, where do you think Kenya has big opportunities in?
So 5-on-5 and 3x3 are different games. It is basketball, yes, but the philosophies and generally just the physical demands of the game within 3x3 and 5-on-5 are totally different. I think there's opportunity in both. That's 5-on-5 and 3x3. One thing about 3x3 is, with a smaller unit, should you do it right, it becomes easier with regards to sourcing or with regards to mobilizing resources, because it's a much smaller unit, yeah? But it doesn't take away from the opportunities that 5-on-5 has, particularly at a national level, because with 5-on-5, we're usually talking like Zone 5 qualifiers, we're talking Afrobasket qualifiers, yeah? We're talking about Afrobasket itself, and beyond Afrobasket, there's always like opportunities. Even we've never been there, right? But World Cup is there, like World Cup qualifiers. For the 3x3, we've been able to get to that level. So 3x3 definitely has a lot of momentum, like globally, just because of the popularity of the game and even just how enticing it is, yeah? And as it stands right now, I think 3x3 has more to offer. But if I'm more to offer with regards to exposure and how far we've been able to get as a unit, like the bar has been set like really high. We've been able to go to qualifiers with the women's team, yeah? But with regards to 5-on-5, what I love about it is you get to carry more. Because again, with exposure, you want to be able to get as many people exposed as possible. And that's the hold that 5-on-5 has. If we can, when we can get to go to these different competitions at an international scale, I think it makes a difference for our players when they come back, particularly with regards to just the multiplier effect, yeah? One person can go tell 5 others, or even just work with a specific program. And through the experience, just through the shared experience, inspire another whole generation, yeah? So I think there's work to be done in both 3x3 and 5-on-5. But I wouldn't sell any short with regards to opportunity that is within, yeah.
Funding and resource mobilization is key to success of a coach and how a coach manages the team and leads the team. But this comes up because of, you're a mobilization, you do this mobilization or you oversee this resource mobilization at Clique Mambas. What are the biggest challenges in financing basketball programs, and how can the private sector help?
Some of the biggest challenges that are there with regards to mobilization sometimes is the element of documentation. Like, there's some requirements with regards to just registration and legitimizing what you're doing. And that's a step that some people tend to overlook. And then in the long run, it becomes a challenge. So one thing I'd advise is getting your documentation in check at whatever capacity that your organization is running at, and how it is that you're managing the program. Documentation is always key. Though the challenge also with documentation is sometimes with the bureaucratic nature of our systems, it might take you quite a while to really get that in check. So that has always been a challenge for sure. And then with regards to attracting the private sector, sometimes it's hard being in alignment in terms of just the goals and the identity of the group that you're working with. And also value proposition wise, that may be a challenge sometimes, particularly where you're required to do so much with so little. So I think that's one thing that private sectors need to really check on with regards to the expectations, yeah? Because this is an investment. It won't happen overnight. The success isn't overnight. Transforming just any team into a championship team takes a lot of investment. And sometimes guys want to downplay the level of investment that is required, yeah? So you'd find they might give so little and then want so much in terms of results and outcome. So I think that's also been one of the challenges. And then of course, with media and branding right now. However, of course, having like the media houses that you've mentioned, the upcoming ones like Whoopie Sports and K-Hoops, in just getting the basketball product out there. Because the challenge that has been in the past is there hasn't been much traction media-wise towards basketball-related activities or even just our basketball games, the league games. Yeah, I think since Super Sport, it hasn't been the same. Or since Zuku, I think at the time with Zuku, when they were doing the University League, there was quite some traction in that. So that's usually part of the challenge, because when you're pitching to these private sector or even just institutions, it is that they want a certain level of visibility, they want a certain level of value that returns, right, from the investment that they have given. So yeah, so that's usually, it's a challenge sometimes.
So true, so true. But all these are possibilities, again, as you said, with planning.
Yeah.
And I like that you brought up the very key important part is ensuring that you keep your records straight. And this will also help and position you as a team for future planning and funding, right?
Sure.
Yeah. But there's a lot that comes into coaching, and part of it is player scouting. And sometimes you're working with athletes. Now it's a global space. People are being scouted, people are being seen. You can easily be seen through some of the virtual games, or what K Hoops does, what Fall and One does, and all that. What are some of the qualities that you can let young athletes know to have for them to be easily scouted?
One thing's for sure is the fundamentals part. You can't be a great basketball player if you're lacking in the foundation and fundamental of the sport. So that's one thing you have to really pay attention to. The fundamentals is never the fun. It's not, okay, there's fun in fundamental, the word itself, but some of that stuff isn't fun stuff for guys. Yeah. Particularly for players that are just starting, it's never fun stuff. But it's that kind of stuff that helps build a great foundation for you now to explore and add on these skills that are there to be gained. Yeah. So fundamentals would definitely be key. And then, like I said, I think having people around you that understand what a sports pathway looks like. Yeah. Whether it's career-wise, right? Whether it's going through the educational part in getting into universities or colleges that have these pristine basketball programs, I think it's very important to have that kind of guidance. And then mentors are very important as well within the sport. That means it could be an elite athlete, yeah? It could be an elite coach, right? Or it could even be just your parents who has this understanding of what sports can be and what opportunities are within it, yeah? But you definitely need a person to guide you on that journey. It's not one that you can do alone because there's so many dynamics, and sometimes you might think you're going the right way, and then with the nature of how things are in the sporting space as well, is that things can get really transactional. So you find that now you're buying the opportunities that you could easily access if you had the right people with you, or if you had the right guidance or the right understanding of how things work. So one thing, I'd put it on the skill for sure. Get your fundamentals right, because through fundamentals, now you're able to advance, right? You can't move to an advanced stage and you're already lacking in fundamentals. That's hard. Yeah, and then having the right support system and understanding the pathway that there is within sports. Yeah.
There might be a young athlete or young coach who's looking up to you and desiring to know how are you able to manage the cultural barriers within an international exposed team like Nairobi City Thunder. You're handling different cultures, different people, different traditional norms, but still getting to do the work and achieving the work. How do you do that?
It comes down to the fundamental values that you embody as a person. I think that's where it all starts. While the operational environments may be different, the capacities may be different as well, the base of everything is constant. Like, you want to build a successful team, you have to be able to commit work, like really hard work, yeah? You have to be willing to invest time, resources, yeah? You have to do your research as a coach. You have to connect with your players at both levels, yeah? So you have to keep an open mind, and you have to consistently see possibility in each space that you're in. So that's one way I've managed to balance it, because from my approach of how I've always coached is that basketball at the end of the day has to be fun. Like it is a game, yeah? So that will always be what I carry, whether it is in Thunder or with Clique. The difference would be in how we apply that within those different spaces, yeah? So that's where you're talking about the cultural barriers. So fully understand what is required of you within the environment that you're in, but at the same time, in stepping into that environment, you have to still have your coaching identity, yeah? Have your set of values that guide your work ethic, because in both, whether international, whether local, to attain the success that you want, to create that experience that you want for your players and yourself, to get to that level of excellence, yeah? It comes down to those basic things. Your willingness to put in the work, your willingness to get better yourself as a coach. That means you'll invest in yourself, you'll do a lot of research, yeah? And of course, understanding your personnel, because you don't understand them, then you can't really work with them or get the most out of them, yeah?
In the spirit of, consistently seeing possibilities in the space that we are in and that you are in, what's next for you? What's next for Coach Mshilla?
Honestly, I haven't given it much thought, yeah.
Yes.
Because some would argue that I'm living the dream, yeah? Because here we are getting ready for BAL, yeah. I'll get back to that on you, but I'll get back to you on that. But for now, my focus right now has been doing a bit more for myself with regards to getting more knowledge in the space, like in the space itself and even in the sport. So exploring schooling options, because I am very young. I think that's what I think, yeah. So I'm young and I'd like to invest a bit more in myself as well, because I'm a firm believer in you can't pour out of an empty cup, yeah. So pouring a bit more in myself like this year, because for the past 4 years, it's been more about doing more for others than it has been for myself. Yeah. So that's one thing I'd like to change a bit, yeah. But in terms of where coaching takes me, I am open to wherever, yeah. Definitely more intriguing spaces, spaces that are, of course, aiming for excellence, because that's what I want for myself, and places that help show me more possibility, yeah? Like that's practically it. The goal is always growth. So if the place challenges me to grow and the opportunity itself pushes me out of my comfort zone, I mean, why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
And as we move on to the quickfire segment that has been brought to us viewers by Wima Recovery Center, where we are having our recovery equipment, and get to see that. We shall link the link to that on the bio down there, and you shall get to watch some of the things that we use and the equipment that we have at Wima Recovery Center, where we are pushing recovery, because recovery and growth of an athlete happens during recovery. If you could coach any basketball player in history, who would it be?
Kobe.
Wow.
I like Kobe.
Wow.
Kobe for sure.
What's your go-to pump up song before a big game?
I do not have one.
You don't have one?
No.
You don't do music, huh?
I just enjoy silence. Yeah, just getting in the zone and then just getting my stuff right. Yeah.
One word to describe your coaching style?
Collaborative.
Collaborative.
Yeah.
If you weren't a coach, what would you be doing?
That's hard. Sitting in the house for sure.
Sitting in the house, huh?
Netflix and chill.
The best advice you've ever received in sports?
You are who you think you are.
You are who you think you are. Yeah, a lot comes with your mind and how strong the mind is, right? I like that. On to our funny segment. We like this part because at times we finish this show strong and happy and enjoy it. The funniest excuse you've ever had from a player missing practice?
They washed their shoes got rained on, and it wasn't a rainy day, so I didn't understand that.
That's a funny one. Have you ever mistakenly called a play that completely backfired? And what happened?
I definitely have more than one moment of that. And the result was chaotic. Yes. And I had to call a timeout. And everyone was on their own page, just to show how much confusion there was in that moment. Yeah, so the athletes on their own page, what coach called was something else. And the outcome wasn't what we wanted, for sure.
And in such moments, you know, what comes with ownership of such a thing happening, and the coach says, hey guys, or even after the game, hey guys, you know, I messed you guys up.
That was me.
Do you do that as a coach?
Yeah. On some days you definitely have to do it, but you also let them know that that's part of the learning curve, not just for them, but for me as well. Yeah. But taking ownership is definitely important. Same way you would hold them accountable is also important for you yourself to be held accountable and to hold yourself accountable too. Yeah.
So if basketball had a yellow card, just like soccer, what would you give players a warning for?
Talking to referees.
Oh my God. That's a tough one.
Talking to referees.
Usually it's kind of irresistible, but that will be a good yellow card. I like that. What's the weirdest pre-game ritual you've seen from a player?
Wearing their socks and then walking without their shoes. Like they just want to walk in their socks for like a while before wearing their shoes.
Yeah, that's a funny one. Indeed. If coaching had a reality TV show, what name would you give it?
Ay. Really? Yeah. That's what we're doing?
Yes. What name would you give your reality TV show for coaching?
Oh my heavens. I am terrible with this, yeah. A reality TV show. Hooper's Islands.
Hooper's Islands.
Yeah, I like that. Hooper's Island. Like Survivor series.
Yeah. That's a nice one. Hooper's Island.
I like that. I'd do that.
It's been real having you at Wima Sports, Coach Mshilla.
It's been great being here. Thank you for having me.
We appreciate all that you do, the dynamic differences of how you bring the game to your players. It's amazing how you study film. I know you study film. We've not had a chance to talk about that as well, which is an important aspect of coaching. Maybe if you can wrap up with that in few words. What's the importance of coaches studying film, and what difference does it bring?
There's so much to be gained from film study, because one, when you're doing film study just for your team, it helps highlight moments, teachable moments that you can share with your players. Because sometimes when you tell them, they don't completely get what you're trying to communicate. But when they're able to see and you're able to break it down together, it helps bring that collaborative energy, right? So they're able to give you some feedback and you them. And in the process, you're able to come to this understanding, which helps in improving their game, and by improving them, you improve the team. Yeah. Film study with regards to opponents and even just general research of the game, it helps you see the different style of plays that are existent out there. So you'd be able to see the different kind. If you're a defensive coach who's looking maybe for a zone press, you can see how teams are able to enact, whether it's a diamond press, whether it's a 1-2, kind of press. If you're looking for specific concepts that you would like to also replicate within your system, it helps when you've seen other teams that have done it successfully, right? And you're able to make reads of that you can now even share with your team. Because if you're trying to teach something, like I said, there's people who learn things differently. Others would be visual. Others they have to see it and then do it. Others you have to write it down for them. Others have to hear. So one thing about film is there's always audios with the film that you're watching when it's being broken down. So you'd find a player would relate better with that kind of delivery when you share a link and they're able to see, okay, so this is what coach is trying to teach. And when they see it happening and it's successful, it also gives them this confidence in what they're trying to learn. Like, if we also do it well, then this is the outcome we can get out of it. So it gives them a level of confidence as well. So I think film study is really important, a crucial part of teaching the game, right? And generally just improving your knowledge of it. Because the more knowledge you also have as a coach, you have multiple options to work with, and that can help make your systems of play as dynamic as can be. So you don't become so predictable. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Coach, we appreciate you. We'll definitely have a session on film maybe later on, just to break and that more for people to understand, okay, how do I scout? What do I look at? What do I read? You know, it's watching film is just seeing, but how am I reading what I'm seeing, and how am I translating it to what I'd like to achieve as a coach, and disseminating all that information back to the individual players, the team, and all that, which is something I think I feel we need to explore more. We'll definitely do something on that. But great honor having you once again. We appreciate you. We're wishing you all the best with the Nairobi City Thunder, new season here. You're also preparing for BAL now. Clique is also there looking after you, and may God really bless all that you do.
Thank you, sir.
All the best from Wima Sports.
Thank you, Wima Sports, for having me.
Yeah, so as you sign out, look at this camera. 2 words to a 12-year-old you on something that you'll do different.
I have a lot. But 2 words? You said 2 words?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, but short.
It gets so much better than you ever envisioned.
It gets so much better.
So much better.
I like that.
Yeah.
It gets so much better than you ever envisioned, and we close with that here at Wima Sports. It's your host, Jermaine, signing out. Salute.